Hello, this is Jacqueline, and today we're going to do a really fun crochet project. We're going to make a dog sweater. So if you have any lovely fur babies that love to wear sweaters outside on their walks, then this project is for you. It's fairly simple to do. We're doing it all in one piece, and we are going to, of course, make some holes here for the front legs, and then we also have a nice little gap here optional to do for to make room for the dog harness. You can see here that I've made two different sizes so far. I've made a small one. This larger one I gave to my beautiful grand fur baby Remy. She just loves wearing sweaters on her outdoor walks and was super excited to get this for an early Christmas present. So, but we're going to do the medium size today. So we're going to make the medium size sweater in today's project, but I will have measurements for all of these in the written pattern that you can find in the link below the description under the title of the video. And then you can also kind of adjust as needed based on the measurements of the dog that you're making it for. So let's talk about the materials that we're going to need for this sweater. I'm using just a very basic worsted weight yarn. The brand is Loops and Threads for what I'm using today. I'll have a link in the description below if you wish to purchase that. We are also going to be using two different size crochet hooks today, the 5.5 millimeter and a smaller 4.5 millimeter to complete this. You're going to also want some kind of a measuring device as we measure along to see how far we are, and then you will need just some plain stitch markers to kind of mark where we go on certain aspects of the project. All right, let's get started with making a foundational chain. We are starting with making this back piece, this gray piece of the sweater that's going to go on the back of your dog. And we are going for the medium size dog sweater. We're going to make a chain that is 18 inches long. And I think it's about 60 stitches, but you'll want to kind of go by measurement, probably a little bit more than number of stitches based on the tension of your crocheting. So let me go ahead and start my foundation chain. And we're going to be using the larger crochet hook to begin with, okay? So the 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Let's chain for 18 inches. All right, let's see how long we have this now. It looks like my chain is about 18 inches long. For me, that was about 62 stitches. So and that was 18 inches long. That's the size you're going to want for that medium size sweater. Now let's start our very first row. I am still going to be using the 5.5 millimeter hook for this first part of row number 1. So we are going to chain just one more in addition to our 62 stitches. That's going to be our turning chain. And we're going to start our very first stitch on that second chain from the hook. And we're going to do a half double crochet for the majority of this first row. So let's do a yarn over. And in that second stitch from the hook, we're going to insert it, grab that yarn, bring it through, then yarn over and bring through all 3 loops on your hook. That is a half double crochet. Let's do it again. Yarn over, insert into the next stitch, bring that yarn through, yarn over, bring through all 3. Yarn over, insert in the next stitch, bring that yarn through, yarn over, bring through all 3. Okay, we're going to continue this half double crochet all the way till we have 10 stitches left on the chain. We're going to switch then to a smaller hook and a little different stitch, and what that's going to do is allow the neck of the back of the sweater be a little smaller. So we need to, for those last 10 stitches, just make everything just a little smaller so it will fit nicer around the dog's neck and keep the back a wider width. Okay, so let me crochet ahead a little bit for well, for me it's going to be 52 stitches till we have 10 stitches left, and then I'll show you what we'll do next. Okay, I've done my half double crochets all the way till I'm almost to the end, and I've got 10 chains remaining. So at this point we are going to switch to our smaller crochet hook, our 4.5 millimeter hook. So remove the large one, let's use the smaller one for these last 10 stitches up and back. So for the next 10 stitches on the way there, we are going to be doing single crochets. So with our smaller hook, let's do 10 single crochets. So insert your hook, grab that yarn, bring it through, then yarn over, bring through 2. Insert, grab, bring through, yarn over, bring through 2. Okay, so those are single crochets that we're going to be doing to the end of this row. This is 9 and 10 into that last stitch. Now we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. Okay, so now continuing with the smaller hook for these first 10 stitches, we are now going to do just slip stitches, but through the back loop only. Okay, so from now on, actually all of our stitches for the back of this sweater is going to be through the back loop only. The slip stitches, the single crochets, and the half double crochets, all through the back loop. So we are going to skip that chain, that turning chain, and we're going to do our first slip stitch through the back loop. Grab that yarn, bring it through and through the loop on your hook. So that's just a slip stitch. We're going to do 10 of those. So that was 1. All right, that was 10 slip stitches. Okay, now we're going to switch back to our larger hook. Again, for the remainder of this row, we're going to go back to our half double crochet stitch, but again, we're going to be doing it only through the back loop. Okay, so now let's do half double crochets through the back loop for the rest of the stitches on this row. And so you can kind of see the pattern that we're doing. Half double crochets for this majority of this row, and then the top part of our rows on each side we're doing for those 10 stitches slips or single crochets up to the top, and then on the way back slip stitches back to the half double crochet. Okay, so we're just going to continue that pattern for a little while till we get to the point in the sweater, which is going to be for our little gap. If you want to have a gap here for like a dog harness. So that is going to be half of our distance that we want to do, where we're going to want to kind of pause for a moment to put in that little gap for the dog sweater. So I believe for the medium size, that is going to be for 7.5 inches that we're going to continue this. Our total width of our back for the medium sweater is going to be 15, so half of that is 7.5, where we're going to want to do that little gap for the harness. So let me work ahead for 7.5 inches. That may be a different number of rows for you, just depending on how tight or loose you crochet, and then I'll show you how to do that little gap row. All right, let's continue with our little gap row that we're going to do. We're going to start at the top where we have our slip stitches and single crochets going on here for this tighter neck piece. We're going to go down for a little bit, and then I have put some markers here to indicate where we want to have the gap. For this medium sweater, I'm doing it at about 4.5 inches from the top of the neck. Then we're going to do about 6 stitches worth of a gap, and then finish the rest of the row. So here's how we're going to do that. Let's start at the top of our sweater at the neckline here. We're still using the small hook. So on the way back, I need to chain 1. And on the way back, we're doing, remember, slip stitches through the back loop. So let me do those 10 slip stitches. And this is number 10. Now we will switch again to our larger hook and do half double crochets up to this point where I've got a stitch marker. And again, that's about 4.5 inches from the top of the neckline. That is for the medium size sweaters. Other measurements for the small and large, again, are in that written pattern that you can link to in the description below. But now let's do our half double crochets up to my stitch marker here. Okay, now I put a stitch marker in the very first stitch of my gap, which is going to be 6 stitches long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in order to make a little gap here, what we're going to do now is just chain 6 stitches. So 1, make them kind of loose, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we're going to skip these 6 stitches in our row here and start to do my half double crochet again. So yarn over, insert, and through and then we're going to keep going with half double crochets again now to the end of my row. But what we basically did there is now created a little gap in our stitching for that harness. So now we're just gonna do the half double crochets all the way to the end of this row. And then I'll just kind of show you how it looks like when we stitch back over top of that gap again. Okay, I'm approaching our little gap here. So when you come back to this area, it's just very simple. You're just going to now, instead of you know, inserting in a stitch that's existing, you're inserting into the chain stitches that you created over that gap. So let's just continue over that just so you can kind of see what that looks like. We're still going in the back loop on the existing stitches, and then when we get to those chains, you're just stitching right into the center of each chain. So we're going to be doing that for 6 stitches. We've created 6 chains for our gap. And then just continue on for the rest of the row, remembering that we, of course, like you have been doing, we're going to stop at 10 stitches left, switch to the smaller needle, and then do single crochets up to that point. And then we'll talk about how to keep going and how much longer to do the back before we switch over to working on the belly of the sweater. Okay, now we're just going to kind of continue with the same pattern that we were doing on the front half of this back for the second half. So we're going to continue to do that for the exact same distance that we did for the front half. To me, that was, you know, that was 7.5 inches, but it was 17 rows for me. So now I'm going to go 17 more rows for the second half. And at that point, we're going to switch to a solid color. If you like a different color, you can do it all the same color if you like as well, but just to give it a little bit more interest, I switched to a different color here. Then we will do the little belly of the sweater, and same concept of leaving some room for the arms, the front legs. So I will see you in a little bit when I have finished the other half of the back. All right, we are done with the back piece of this sweater. We have it for now a total of 15 inches from top to bottom, or the width of it for 15 inches for the medium size dog. So we've completed our nice little gap for the harness, and now we are ready to work on this chest piece, or the belly piece, for the dog sweaters. So let's get started. Now I have already put in place here some stitch markers for where I want my leg gap to be and how long I want the chest piece to be. So I have measured for the medium size, it's going to be 4.5 inches from the neck piece, and that's where we ended, by the way, our back. We ended with coming up to the next piece. So that's where we're going to start the next row with a new color for the chest. So I'm going to crochet for 4.5 inches, leave 10 stitches again for the gap of the armhole, leg hole, and then do another 13 stitches to the bottom of the chest piece. So I'm going to also at this time put those same stitch markers in place on this side, so I make sure that when I come to connect the chest excuse me, the chest piece to the other side, the leg holes will be in the exact same position. All right, so now I've got stitch markers in place on both sides, and now we can begin to add our second color and do the second type of ribbing stitch for the chest. So as I mentioned, I ended my back piece coming up the next size, and we were ending with slips or single crochets all the way to the top with the smaller hook. To connect another color yarn, I already cut my gray yarn because we're not going to be needing that anymore, but to connect another color, stop 1 stitch to the end. So I still have 1 single crochet stitch left to do before the end of the row. So I'm going to start that stitch by inserting my hook in the stitch here, bringing that yarn through, but then stop, pause for just a moment, because at this point now I'm going to add my second color. Here's the end of my yarn. I'm just going to now grab this new color yarn, bring it through the last 2 loops on my hook, can tighten that up a little bit, and now I will do my chain 1 and turn with my new color. Again, tighten it a little bit as you go, and now I'm ready to turn and begin to do my first row of the new color. Now with this new color, we are also just going to be using the bigger hook. So I am done with the smaller hook. We're just going to be using the big hook from now on, the 5.5 millimeter hook. And now I'm going to do, for my first row, I'm going to be doing just slip stitches through the back loop again, just like we did before, but slip stitches are going to be my row 1 for this chest piece. So let's go into the back loop of my first stitch, or skip the chain of course, and then the first full stitch here. Let's do a slip stitch with the new color, and we will do that till we get to our marker, and then we will make that gap for the hole. All right, there's my last stitch before my stitch marker for the gap. So now we're going to, again, like we did before for a little gap in our crocheting, we're going to chain 10. And again, chain kind of loosely. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And we will skip 10 stitches here, which I've already kind of indicated with my markers. So I'm going to go and do my next stitch in this 11th stitch way over here through the back loop again, just another slip stitch, and continue on our way with slip stitches till we get to the next marker, and that's going to be the bottom of our chest piece. Okay, I'm stopping right before my stitch marker. We're going to now again chain 1, and let's turn our work, and we'll go back the other way. So now on this particular rib stitch, which I mentioned is a little bit different from what we have been doing, we're not going to be doing half double crochets anymore. We're going to do on the way back a stitch called the yarn over slip stitch, and it's exactly how it sounds. It's a slip stitch, but we're starting with a yarn over. So it just makes for a little bit bigger stitch, and it makes for this really beautiful ribbing. We're also doing this yarn over slip stitch through the back loop. Everything's through the back loop from now on. Okay, so we're doing to do a yarn over slip stitch, just as the name suggests. We're starting with the yarn over, then slipping it through the back loop of your stitch, grab that yarn, and then just continue to pull it through the remainder 2 loops on your hook. So no additional yarn over after that. So a yarn over, insert it, grab it and pull it through, and then grab it, pull it through the rest of your hook loops. Yarn over, insert through the back loop, pull it through, and continue to pull through the rest. Yarn over, insert, pull through, pull through. Okay, so that's our yarn over slip stitch. We're going to do that all the way down, and even again, same thing that we did before on these chains that we did for the gap. Just stitch right into those chains all the way to the very top, and then we'll go on repeating those 2 row repeats. All right, when we are done with that row, we will do a chain 1 again and turn. Now we will repeat row 1, which is again those slip stitches through the back loop. We will go do that all the way down here to the end of our chest piece, and then we will do again that yarn over slip stitch on the way back. We will continue this that sequence to make this really pretty tight ribbing all the way across the chest before we will connect it to the other side, and again leaving a gap for the hole. So we are going to do this for a total of 5 inches for the medium-sized sweater, and then we will connect it to the other side and finish that up with that second arm gap. So I'll see you back when I finished with the chest. All right, well, we are almost done, folks. We have completed our chest piece, and this is now 5 inches wide. That is for the medium size sweater. And now we're ready to now join the chest piece with the other side of the back piece. And you'll recall that we already had put in stitch markers to know exactly where we want this arm gap here. So what we're going to do now is attach this edge of the chest piece with this edge of the back piece. And we're going to do that again with just a series of slip stitches. You notice that I have ended my last row of the chest piece up here on the neck side, and now we will just connect these 2. So let's do that. We're continuing to just use, again, this large hook. And we've got our last stitch here, and now we're just going to, with the right sides together now, and you can know that it's the right side. This is the wrong side where you see kind of a both colors showing through on that row that we connected those two pieces. On the right side, there is no, two colors showing there. So that's, we want to put the right sides together. And we're going to take insert our needle in the very first stitch here on the back side, insert it through both legs of that stitch. It's actually the foundation chain that we started with. And we will put it through the last hook of our last row, or the last loop, and grab that yarn, pull it through both sides. So the blue side and the gray side, we will pull that loop through. And then we will grab the very next stitch, insert our hook on the gray side or the back side, and the next stitch from the chest, the blue, grab that yarn and pull through both loops and the loop on your hook, okay? So we're connecting these pieces by going through the next stitch on one side, the next stitch on the other side, and then pulling that yarn through both of those and the loop on your hook. Okay, now we are at the stitch marker, so now we're going to do 10 stitches here where we're going to keep that little gap for the front legs. So we're going to now, instead of doing like a chain that we did and connect, since we're now at that last row, we're only connecting them, we're just going to conduct 10 slip stitches just through the chest side, not connecting the two, for a series of 10 stitches. So let's do that. We're just going to go in through both legs of the stitch this time and just do a slip stitch for 10 stitches for this gap. All right, that's number 10. So now we can continue to, and I've already marked out with my 10 stitches are here. So my next stitch that I want to connect is this stitch right after my stitch marker. So now let's continue to go through the both stitches to continue to connect till we are through both pieces here. And now let's turn it the right side out. And we have a beautiful, nice, snugly warm dog sweater, perfect for your little fur babies for those cold walks out inside in the winter time. They're just gonna love this. It really is a quick crochet project. Here we got the medium size, the large size, and the small size with some fun stripes. So you can be creative and work on any size you want. The best thing to do to make it fit for your dog is to take measurements and then just adjust the length, adjust the width by adding more rows, adjust the chest height. You can, adjust it as you go according to the measurements of your dog. So I hope you give this a try. It's a fun project. Keep your puppy or your dog nice and warm. Thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video, and I will see you next time. Thanks. Happy crocheting.